Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Labor Day. Through Vignaraja here on behalf of the family of Ronnie Silver. I'm going to keep my remarks relatively brief so that we can give Ronnie's mother and aunt a chance to share some of their feelings. But I do want to underscore the reason why we are here. Today is September 2nd, 2024. Exactly a month ago on August 2nd, 2024, marked the needless death of a DPW worker who was toiling in 100-degree weather picking up our trash. It was as preventable as it was tragic. The Inspector General and so many DPW workers had warned the city, had warned DPW leadership, not for hours, not for days, but for months. It was 2 months earlier, June 2nd, that the first complaints were filed formally with the Inspector General. Nothing was done, and a man is dead. The reality is that everything that's happened in the month since, which frankly isn't very much, even that is only because the city and DPW were caught with their pants down, and a man is dead as a result. But here we are a month later with the family largely knowing no more than it did in the days immediately after Ronnie's death. We have had a council hearing. We have had a code red advisory that resulted in a DPW half day, but virtually nothing else. We saw a training, an emergency training, but these steps come a day late and $1 short. But on top of that, this family knows nothing still from public officials about what happened that tragic day. Keeping this family in the dark is keeping them in pain. They need to understand what happened that horrific day so they can make sense of what appears to be senseless, so they can come to understand what seems unimaginable. A man in the height of his life, mid-30s, with kids, a strong man, a hard-working man who picked up 10 and 20 and 30-pound trash cans for 10 hours a day, day after day after day, is dead. And they want to know why. If we don't hear answers from public officials soon, it is incumbent upon us to share with the public what we have learned through our own private investigation. We think it's important for the public to hear from DPW leadership. When a year ago there was a horrific mass shooting at Brooklyn Homes on July 1st into the early morning hours of July 2nd, by the end of the next month, there was a complete, comprehensive after-action report published by the Baltimore Police Department about the failures of the Baltimore police. At the council hearing, it was encouraging to hear DPW leadership say they were open to doing an after-action report. So one of the things that we want to know is such an investigation happening? When are we going to hear the results? This was not dozens of people shot in a crowd of hundreds. This was a single man who died on the streets of Baltimore begging for water and medical assistance from a stranger. That's not a complex gang investigation. It's a simple inquiry into what happened that day, and the public deserves to know, but more importantly, the family deserves to know. Keeping them in the dark is not an option, and keeping them in the dark is keeping them in pain. I'm going to first ask Faith, Ronnie's beloved mom, to share what this month has been like, what impact it has had on her and the family to lose the pillar of their family, and to express their sentiments on behalf of the family. I'm going to preemptively ask Faith to keep her voice up as much as she can, okay?
Good afternoon, everybody. This has been a horrific last 30 days for our family. His loss. My son was everything to us. He was everything to us. He's a son that helped take care of an ailing mother. He was a son who was there in the front lines for his children and his siblings. He was beloved. He was so beloved. And he deserved more than to die alone. It's something that could have prevented. I find it just hard getting through the days knowing my baby is gone. And I know that his young minor children, his fiance, his aunts and his uncles and his brothers and his sister, his cousins. This is a significant loss for our family. And I don't want anybody to experience this.
Can I ask you, Faith, has the family learned anything since those earliest days about what happened that day?
Nothing. Nothing. We have heard from nobody, nothing. And I think that makes us lost so much if it could be any greater, is that we know what happened, but nobody's telling us anything. And I think anybody deserves to know. I think we all deserve to know. I think the public deserves to know.
I'm going to ask her aunt to come up.
Good morning. I am Ronnie Silver II's paternal aunt. Ronald was loved. Little Ronnie affectionately to the family. He was very important. As we hear many times in the media, in the world, in Baltimore City particularly, that young black men aren't successful. He was our success. He has 5 children that he actively participated in their lives and raised 2 in his home. Ronald was the man that no one talks about. They talk about the bad, the ugly. Well, we want you to know as a family that Ronnie was raised in a loving family with the father in presence by his side every day as he raised his own kids. We deserve answers. This was someone that was stolen from our lives at the hands of Baltimore City, who refused to give us answers as we have asked for on a daily basis. We attended the City Hall hearing, but we still left without answers. They gave promises, but no answers. And I stand here on behalf of my brother, my loving nephew, that I no longer can tell him that I love him and that I'm proud of what he's becoming, and figure out day to day how we're going to continue to support his children and help them to become productive citizens if they choose to remain in Baltimore City. It's important to know that we can be protected. It's important to know that we can ask questions and receive answers. This should be transparency and nothing more than that. And so today we stand to ask for those answers. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the family members or for me?
What questions do you really need answered? What are some of the questions? There's so many, but what are some of the questions that you're asking? And is it DPW, police?
Let me answer that first, and then look, we know that there's an investigation underway by the Baltimore Police Department. We understand that DPW, based on their counsel hearing testimony, was considering doing an internal investigation of their own. When they got called out on the law firm from DC as not even-handed, independent auditor of what happened, it seemed like they were open to doing it. It seems DPW ought to be the first one to respond as to what happened within their agency, to one of their own. They ought to want to know what happened. And so if they have asked internally, what happened that day? What happened earlier that morning? Why wasn't 911 called by one of his supervisors? Why didn't his supervisor call in for clearer guidance? Was there any protocols in place for what should have happened that day, not after the fact, but before the fact? They'd been warned for 2 months by the Inspector General, by Ronnie's colleagues who were sounding the alarm. This wasn't like some quiet alarm in the basement. This was a 5-alarm fire that the Inspector General was herself announcing and having reports and press conferences about. For this to happen in the immediate wake of so many people shouting at the top of their lungs that these workers needed help, we just don't understand. Were any precautions or prophylactics in place? What happened that day that wasn't supposed to happen? Why did he stumble from the truck to a stranger's house begging for water and medical assistance? Where was DPW and his colleagues.
To be clear, has the city reached out in any capacity beyond? I know initially they had offered condolences. They alerted someone within the family about the law firm that was hired. But since then, have they contacted them at all?
Nothing. And look, this family is understanding. This is not the only tragedy in Baltimore. They're not expecting morning and afternoon briefings. But to be ghosted for a month when something so horrific and senseless has happened, to have no information, even a call that says, we're investigating, we'll have more for you in a few weeks. That's what happens in every homicide investigation, or it ought to. Why aren't they entitled to the same simple courtesy?
You
Has
mentioned
the police reached out with the progress of the investigation? The DPW hasn't, police hasn't either?
No. No updates, right?
Can I ask either Ms. Faith, or I didn't catch your name now,
My name is LaTanya Mountain.
or Ms. LaTanya, could you, either one of you, just describe Ronnie to me? I didn't get a chance to meet him, and I just want to know a little bit more about who he was.
He was beautiful. He was beautiful.
Oh, do me a favor. Go right up. Talk like you're yelling at me.
He was beautiful, and he was funny, and he was a little wisecracker. He just always had this way. I love you, Aunt Toy. I love you, Aunt Nene. I love you, Ma. He was beautiful. He was all right. He just was. It's my boy. My baby.
He was someone different to each and every one of us. We all loved him, but he all had special relationships. He would come to any one of us for something different,
Yeah.
but we all guided him in the same direction, and that's to be responsible and accountable. So we're not asking for anything more than we expected of him.
What do you hope his legacy is?
His legacy is his children. They are his legacy.
And his professional legacy should be the changes that should happen for each and every employee of Baltimore City, especially those that do the least thankful job.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Just the family is starting to do individual interviews. There are some individual members that feel more comfortable in a sit-down setting. So if any of you want to reach out, they're happy to do that.
My condolences go out to the family.
Thank you, sir.
All those guys, people in the street, I just want to say my condolences go out to y'all. Keep your head up. It's going to be all right. Keep your head up. What's your name?
Thank